Full season pickup for Would You Attend Their Funeral? Wow. That's coming around the corner.
Are you you're gonna lob it in somewhere as a surprise, right? It's not gonna be. You're not gonna tease it, correct?
You know my production style.
Well, you lead wherever it is you want to go here, and we'll just do it around.
We already started, Dan. Welcome, everybody, to the David Samson Show. It happens every Thursday, for the most part, here on the local LOUR. David is the host of Nothing Personal, and you can follow him on Twitter, at David P. Samson. We begin in the obvious place. Dan, have you been subpoenaed?
I have not.
Ooh, you're named in the lawsuit. That's an upset. That's my new game show. Have you been subpoenaed?
Wow.
Dave, have you been subpoenaed?
Yes.
In the Sage Steele lawsuit?
Oh, no, not in that one. I thought you just meant in general, like a Tuesday.
We knew that. I mean,
I have never been subpoenaed in any way, and I do not have any history with subpoenas.
Have you ever been served?
No.
Oh, I had such a funny thing on Nothing Personal today about Jason Sudeikis serving Olivia Wilde in the middle of her being on stage.
The reports are that he didn't do that on purpose. The timing.
I
That's
doubt
horse
that he
hockey.
would. Ooh, you think he did that on purpose? Man,
I'm with Samson on this one.
He's bought so much with just via Ted Lasso that I would say Jason would never intend for this.
So the way it works when you hire a service processor is their job is to get that lawsuit served. And if Olivia Wilde does not want to be served, you have to sort of spy on her and figure out where she's going to be, where in public she's going to be, and then you just serve her. And that counts as a service of process, but you're always keeping your client in the loop. It's not like you call when it's done and say, oh, we found her at Comic-Con, but we didn't know she'd be there, and we just happened to be there, and there she was. What a miracle. There is no way that there's plausible deniability that Ted Lasso did not know that that was happening.
Should have done it at Harry Styles' Coachella set, if you ask me. That's the ultimate vengeance.
Can we talk about how invasive and helpless it must make you feel to be served?
Yeah, it feels like a terrible feeling. I mean, you'll be able to tell us in a couple of weeks, given that you were named in the lawsuit and you were definitely getting subpoenaed in that thing. I'm even being careful with what I say because it just seems like a whole to-do.
Are you really named in that Steele lawsuit with the ESPN?
Yeah, get this. She thought Dan got away with talking about politics.
that's funny.
I didn't know that this was on the table for us, really.
Please put me on the stand. Please. I am begging
you want to be served?
See the dossier called China.
Please, let's put all this out in public so I can hold up my hands and just be like, I was under oath. It was my legal service and duty to tell you all the things that happened that weren't politics with us at ESPN.
There is zero chance that lawsuit is going to go to a trial where you will be put on the stand. Zero.
I feel like I should go into this lawsuit with Sage Steele just behind her and just say, hey,
Class
give me
action.
10%. Just give me, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to.
Now you're talking.
80-20 Stugotz is way.
You're a co-defendant and co-plaintiff. First ever. This is amazing.
Help me figure out how to turn this into a thing, Mike, where we can sail on the wings of Sage Steele without doing anything and collide into Disney right now at this moment when they're fighting the state of Florida.
I'm going to be careful with what I say because I genuinely don't want to be subpoenaed, but I was I was both surprised and not, if that makes any sense, because it does seem like a shocking, bold move. Some of the people named in the lawsuit, I was under the distinct impression were strong supporters and allies of Sage during our time over there, but this is also the move to further endear yourself to a certain group, so I can't say that I'm that surprised. I did find it funny that your name popped in there under the guise of someone that got away with it.
Well, yeah, she also, I didn't know whether we would end up, because I think the way that she thinks that we got away with it is that I went on the air the day that she was complaining because there was a ban into our country, and Sage Steele was complaining that there was 10 hours of flying, and I purposely, because she's black, I purposely said that is the height of privilege. She was complaining about people being able to get into our country.
Now you're saying too much because that part wasn't outlined. I read the part, and it didn't mention that, so... Whew.
Mm-hmm.
Are you nervous, Dan?
Be careful, Dan.
Is David
game.
Today will be fun, but it pretends that I was allowed to do that. I wasn't allowed. I did it anyway.
Yeah, you did it anyway. They had a policy that you weren't allowed to, so it's kind of kind of weird to say your rights were infringed when you go there. Every meeting we ever had was, hey, don't talk about this. And
No, but
you
they
would
thought-
occasionally break that rule.
No,
Dan.
but they thought all the time that I was they weren't allowing us to talk about that.
I
No.
wasn't trying.
You were cannonballing at every turn. Anyway, what do you make of the lawsuit, David?
It's meritless. What I can't believe about it, though, imagine if Stugotz served you right now with the lawsuit that he felt as though he was not being properly taken care of, or he felt that you were shutting him up, or that you were
Can't rule
stopping
that-
his career.
Can't rule that possibility
But
out.
thinking about it, I got to be
We
honest.
got to
I
do
mean,
it. We got to
But
do
here's
it.
the question.
You got to file
if
a
Stugotz
lawsuit.
does that,
Done.
are you going to keep having him by your side every day? Because ESPN is still letting her be on the air. We had a very simple rule when you run a company. If you're suing us, you're not working for us.
Oh, but David, they don't know how to handle any of this. This is you just saw what happened with Disney in Florida because they don't take sides on stuff. And now Disney, the greatest employer in the history of this state, is fighting with DeSantis. And you've seen all of this. They stay out of this. That's part of why it wasn't even that there was this active campaign where I was getting hit all the time with don't talk about politics. Usually the group would shield me from that. It would just be something that I would go do because it wasn't politics we were
There was
talking
a magic
about.
crate of content that would pop up occasionally. David,
Where is that crate?
David, she's probably still contributing to ESPN because that's what Disney's lawyers are recommending. Because taking her off the air the way that David Samson would either further her cause or be grounds for another lawsuit, wouldn't it?
Not at all. It's not retaliation. It doesn't change the cause of action. It doesn't change the facts of the cases that she's suing over. I just think it's a pretty set in stone rule that if you're going to engage in a lawsuit against me, then you're not going to be working for me. And I think it's so unbelievable.
Oh,
And
but
you're talking about
David,
Disney.
No, but David, the reason I'm saying, forgive me for interrupting you, but the reason I'm saying this is a difficult spot is they so don't want in this business, even though it has come into their shores and they can't avoid it. They don't want the optics of we're firing someone who looks like that, who's complaining that she has been held back in her freedom to speak freely, and now we're going to fire her as soon as she sues us. They don't want to in this moment, I'm guessing. You know law, but I'm guessing
Well,
they don't want the optics of that.
She's talking a little bit more on the retaliation side, right? That the reason she was pulled off assignments was because of the things that she said, did, or didn't do, or didn't say. But I have a different point on this, which is when you are Disney, you're saying they don't want to wade in these waters, but it took a mutiny by their employees. The only reason they're involved with DeSantis, they were not going to be involved. They are donors to DeSantis, as they are donors to everyone on every side of the aisle, which is what all companies do because you need protection on Capitol Hill, no matter whether it's red or blue. The only reason why Disney took a stand is the employees were like staging massive boycotts over the bill in Florida. And there was a concern that Disney had that they would not be able to open the doors. That's it. It had nothing to do with the don't say gay and that entire, and them wanting to take a moral stand and them wanting to champion the LGBTQ plus community. They could care less about that community.
Wow, strong words. You may have worked yourself into a subpoena yourself,
Mm-hmm.
David.
You got to get online to subpoena me, baby.
It was curious. As an observer from both the inside but majority of the outside, is I've seen ESPN just make people disappear. You're wondering, hey, is this person still with the company? What happened to Michelle Beadle? What happened to Rick Riley? They just end up paying talent and don't have anything
Has
for
Rachel
them.
Nichols left?
Yeah, Rachel Nichols is officially done, but Rachel Nichols was in that boat for a short time. I've seen them do it. With Sage, that never happened. It was getting pretty evident, especially towards the end of our time there, where Sage stood publicly on a lot of hot topics, a lot of dangerous topics, yet she kept getting the opportunities. And she, from my perspective, was offered a certain amount of freedom that you bumped up against that line several times. You know how it was. So I actually felt that she was supported from the inside, which led to my surprise today when I read who was specifically named.
More than I felt supported. More than I felt supported.
You weren't supported at all.
Yeah, you
So
weren't
what do you
getting
mean more?
You weren't getting seemingly promotions, or at least
Promotions. I wasn't
lateral
getting
moves.
microphones.
Yeah. Well, to talk about specific.
They
things
were
that you wanted
starving us.
to talk about, but
They made promises to you they didn't keep, though. There's that, right?
Well, again, we should probably be a little bit more careful than we're being right now.
I wanted a printer and a small fridge that worked.
A listener sent us those, didn't they?
Yes.
Do you know how many players
We're still
disappear?
using it.
We're out here begging. We're still using
If that
it.
listener could send us ink for it too, we're out of toner.
You guys talk about people disappearing. That happens every year in sports, right? If you look at rosters, not many people get the retirement tour, right? The Dwayne Wade jersey exchange. The majority of players just disappear during the offseason, and they're never heard from again, and you just don't think about them.
I will tell you something about negotiations that was just brutal when we were trying to get out of there and trying to figure out what could be done in a way that wouldn't make the optics terrible for everybody. I was one of the options, and they were kind in choosing this. One of the options being recommended was just pay them and let them sit on the shelf, not be able to work for the next 18 months. We'll take the hit. And if they'd done that to us, not allowed us to keep doing this show for the audience that jumped with us, we would have tried to come back 18 months later, and they would have ended our careers. Like, we wouldn't have had an ability, like, we would have gone somewhere, but it wouldn't be this.
Oh, I'm eternally grateful for how it shook out, and ESPN was very helpful in the transition. Look, we stayed in the same building, had to rebuild an infrastructure, and kept our RSS feeds, and we put out content the very next day after leaving ESPN. That doesn't happen without a tremendous amount of cooperation from some very good people over at ESPN that assisted in that.
I'm not sure it was cooperation, Mike. I actually think it was done out of fear. They were worried about your roar and your reach, right? So they did not want you with your microphone because they couldn't make you be quiet for 18 months.
Yeah, but
they
the
may
deal
not have let you do this.
The deal they agreed to was one that allowed us to have our microphones.
Yeah,
So-
I get where David is going. The spirit of the deal might have been born from fear of some executives, and I think that probably has some merit. But the people that I was dealing with, compassionate people that deeply cared for us, that didn't really get too tangled up in like the corporate politics. And I am grateful for the people that, once the orders come down from on high, the people that were actually helping us get to the point that we could keep the momentum, where our show actually grew after leaving ESPN. Those were very decent people that weren't doing things out of fear. They were doing it out of compassion, I felt.
My favorite thing would be to wonder if at ESPN right now they're saying, I can't believe we let them get away. What do we have to do to get them back?
Oh,
That's
God,
the
no.
No, that is not happening at all. They are so happy about their decision.
No, they're getting, David, they're getting out of this. They don't want near any of the Sage Steele, any of this stuff.
I've tried. Trust me, David.
He's not kidding.
I totally believe that.
Said I was.
If they offered you $1 more, you'd be at ESPN so fast.
Maybe
your head would
$1
spin.
less. I mean, I'm not certain.
All laughing a little too hard right now.
It'll be $1 less, and he'll grab the fine bucket on his way out the door under his arm.
You bet your ass I will.
Yeah. Let's
There's
switch.
I
no
feel so
loyalty.
old when I say you bet your ass I will.
You sound it too.
Thank you, Dan.
Oh, David, let's switch gears, shall we? To what I don't exactly know, but it is NFL Draft Day. And, the Major League Baseball draft kind of sucks compared to all the other drafts because it doesn't take 5 days. It's 100 rounds. There's so many high school players that don't get national attention the way that, Bryce Harper was one of the only high school prospects that ever got national media attention. You see that all the time, and with basketball especially, whether it's Zion or LeBron. Was there any internal discussion in your league meetings to make the Major League Baseball draft more of a television event?
You guys are funny because I just recorded this morning. The word of the day for today's show is draft day, because baseball would spend hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars because they had such a desire to capture something from the NFL, because the NFL draft is a huge moneymaker for the NFL. And MLB's draft is just terrible because when you draft out of the NFL or NBA, those people are on your team the next year. They're helping your team win the next year. And in Major League Baseball, you're 3, 4, 5 years away. So there's no immediate help. So there's no immediate way to market these players. And so there's no way to do it. But Bud Selig first, then Rob Manfred, they've tried everything. And my view is that they should do the draft in secret, quiet, no cameras, no nothing. They added cameras. I told a funny story today about they put cameras in everybody's draft room, and all these GMs thought they were protecting the nuclear codes, and they all fought with the team presidents and with MLB because they didn't want cameras in their draft room because they thought that other teams would be looking at the feeds and looking at the board and seeing which players the team wanted. It was so insane working with these baseball executives because they're just so scared of not being able to protect their secrets. But the MLB draft is just boring. But the NFL draft is such an interesting thing because everyone gets so excited about it. Like it's a 3-day thing. Are the Packers going to draft a wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, et cetera, et cetera? Is Sam Darnold going to have competition at quarterback with the Panthers? Who cares?
I think that drama adds to it. Even if you, even if you may not be that familiar with some of the prospects, which in the NFL you're vastly more familiar with the prospects entering the draft, they're directly tied to people who you're familiar with. Like you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers. So what the Packers do affects players immediately on the roster. Same goes for the NBA. Does not happen with the National Hockey League. Does not happen with Major League Baseball. You could have the best rotation in baseball, and in the MLB draft, you can go 6 straight rounds drafting starting pitchers. No one's going to read into it.
Do you consider the NFL first-round picks prospects? I'd never heard them described as that, actually.
I mean, technically they are.
That's what
they're
they
prospects.
are, right?
Yeah, they're prospects.
I don't think so. They're expected to be on the big league team the following year, aren't they? Every first round pick should make the team in 3 months, right?
That's another thing about
that's not a prospect.
Well,
prospects
before they're
there,
drafted.
right?
Before they're drafted,
Right.
they're prospects.
Yeah,
But there is a difference there where you don't really know the baseball guys. You don't know their names. You don't know how good they're going to be. There's a randomness to baseball. Yeah, but they don't. Like, look at the number 1 picks historically in the Major League Baseball draft. Like a lot of those guys did not pan out at all.
Yeah, it's more random. Prospect, that term is used far more with Major League Baseball, certainly than it is with football. You can miss more often in the MLB first round than you can in the NFL first round, right, David?
I think it's way more noteworthy when people miss in the top of the first round in the NFL than it is in baseball. Way more noteworthy.
You say this, David, though. You say, who cares? And there's sometimes that you talk, and I'm surprised, okay, that you don't see that your baseball envy of football isn't showing, because you can't say who cares as you were an advanced executive, okay? You're telling your old guys, we got to progress. We got to get smarter about this. We got to evolve. We got to look into the future. What football has made of its draft, David? What football has made of its sport makes it so this ridiculous, dumb thing for 3 days gets to capture the month and and jostle the NBA playoffs out of the way. You can't help but envy that as a former baseball executive, because it's unbelievable what they've made all of these stupid things.
I'm totally green. It's not even a question. I'm green with envy. I was thinking about the draft. It's sort of bizarre that we celebrate. What you're doing is you're really auctioning human beings, aren't you?
Yes.
Like you are saying to this human being that you will now be a New York Jet. We own you.
That's right.
For whatever number of years, 4 years, or a rookie contract, 5 years. It's sort of barbaric in a weird way, isn't it?
Well, prehistoric. It's stupid. It's a stupid idea. Nobody would want in our audience to be told where they had to headquarter, that you have to.
Would you make it a free market?
Why can't it be? Why can't it be everyone's a free agent?
Because the owners can't control themselves and need governors to protect the salaries and keep them down. I know, but within all of that, they need a system that doesn't allow them to compete against each other. Dan Snyder and Jerry Jones have to be kept systematically away from competing for the rights to get players by simply paying them. They've got a free minor league in the college system, and they don't want to fight over these guys because they like that the prices are fixed.
Yeah, I was always in favor of all free agents.
No, I know, but I'm arguing.
He's just telling you why. You're right, David.
Of course,
yes.
I would love the draft disbanded. It's stupid, but how can I say that when we're going to celebrate this auction for 3 days right now and nobody wants it disbanded?
You're talking about owners or fans?
Nobody wants it disbanded.
Owners and fans.
But if you're a fan of a team and it's like open season, if there were no draft, you'd be just as excited about the first day where you can start negotiating with players, right? And every player's available to you, but you have a salary cap, but every player's available to you.
Yeah, but as a Jet fan, like David, the reason I'm so excited is because my team is always bad. Therefore, I always have picks at the top of the draft. I don't know how many players would want to sign with the New York Jets in a free market, you know?
For $1 more. What do you mean? They're all you. Every single player in the draft is just you.
I know, but there's a cap, and I think it has to be slotted. To Dan's point, it's got to be slotted in a certain way.
No, that is the current rules. But I'm arguing, and by the way, by you saying the Jets are always bad, so I get excited because we're at the top.
Yeah.
Would you rather be you and get top picks all the time, or be a fan of a winning team that gets to pick number 28 every year?
I'd rather be a Patriots fan. I mean, but I'm not. I'm a Jets fan. They're never good. So, and this is the only hope or chance
isn't working, though.
Yeah,
but it's not working.
Yes, but one of these days they'll get lucky, and one of these days they'll get it right, and one of these days we're going to be good.
You are the perfect fan because we can abuse you completely, and you will never stop spending your money on us.
I want to get all your guys' take on this interesting gambling story that it's actually centered around a guest that's coming up later on the show. We're not going to ask him about it because it has nothing to do with him, actually. But there's all sorts of in-the-weeds gambling talk surrounding Kayvon Thibodeau's draft props. And I saw this video on VSiN, which is a partner of DraftKings. And this one commentator on VSiN was detailing a story in which he drove across state lines to place a bet at a Barstool Sportsbook, and he wanted to place a bet because he heard some chatter and he had a good feeling on Kayvon Thibodeau going top 5. And these are for safety approximations in case I don't recall the story exactly. But Kayvon Thibodeau top 5 plus 100, and Kayvon Thibodeau exactly to the Lions at number 2 for plus 300. After a lot of big talk from the Barstool Sportsbook operator, they took his license and held his money. They came back and said, well, about taking any bet at any price, we're going to limit you at $800, and the price has changed. I found that interesting, but there are stories like that all the time. It's kind of what the deal is when you
I
sign
thought
up
there
for
were
gambling.
always limits on props because they can be manipulated. I always thought that there were ceilings on what can be bet there.
Most books do have 2-win ceilings on props, but this sports book decided to change on the fly. And that's not, unfortunately, that is far too commonplace where sports books change the rules on you. Changing the price on you while they're holding your money, that's not great. But I saw that a few days ago. And since then, I follow a lot of gamblers on Twitter. I've been seeing that Thibodeau to the Lions is a hot bet. And there's all sorts of rumors of a gambling syndicate having inside information. And you're seeing all these wild fluctuations in prices regarding Thibodeau to the Lions specifically, and Thibodeau going in the top 3. David.
But what's the manipulation you're referring to? Because you're not saying that the Lions would make a bet.
No,
someone's got information.
No. The whispers are a gambling syndicate gets information. Word gets out via Reddit or however these things do.
There's free money over here. Something's fixed. An agent has talked. Something is known.
And I have a source within the Lions.
The insiders aren't reporting it yet, but somebody's got the information that this is already largely a done deal, right?
Therefore, there should be no markets for these things. That's what's always bothered me about these prop bets is that you can't, it's like betting on the Oscars. It always makes me crazy because they say only Ernst & Young knows and the envelopes are sealed until they're opened at the show. But when you're doing a draft, every team knows exactly who every other team is looking at. And that's in baseball, which is far more surprising in terms of how the first round goes than any other sport. The NFL is much easier to predict. People are doing mock drafts for 2 years from now already. So there's such an opportunity for abuse that I'm very surprised there are markets at all for these things.
I would say that there is more mystery for this NFL draft than I can recall, even around the number 1 pick, in terms of gambling prices, and that's how I've seen it. I haven't seen any of the coverage. But gambling prices for even the Jaguars have kind of been all over the place fairly recently. We haven't been in this since Baker went number 1 to the Browns, when that was a fair error mystery around it.
People thought it was going to be Aiden Hutchinson, and then Mel Kiper today said it's not going to be Aiden Hutchinson. It's going to be Trayvon Walker from Georgia.
Yeah, the Walker prices have gone nuts. And would Detroit pass up on Hutchinson at that point, given that they're located in Michigan?
Probably not.
What does that do for the Thibodeau prices?
Stugotz and Billy in one of the top-rated football podcast in the country.
Thank you.
Ahead of Rich Eisen. Got to send him a second-place trophy. And Billy the Duke is still 6th international insider in football. The amount of draft coverage that Stugotz and Billy are going to give you over the next 24 hours, just going crazy. You've talked to how many of these guys? How many of these prospects have you talked to this week?
We spoke to Thibodeau, and so we're going to air that later today. Jordan Davis we spoke to. We spoke to Drake London, Chris Olave, Kyle Hamilton. So those are all guys. Smetty joined us, and Golick for Kyle Hamilton, who went to Notre Dame. All those guys are going to be top 12, top 13 picks in the NFL draft.
And Stugotz is begging all of them as a signal to his audiences to either tackle the commissioner or hit him vigorously on the ass.
Yes, that is correct. Also, the Jets don't need a defensive tackle, but I still want them to draft Jordan Davis. I fell in love with that kid in a 12-minute interview. Okay. God, is he great.
Okay, but you are...
in that case, they're going to take him.
Yes, well, he's a sucker.
They probably will,
Stugotz,
Dave.
till the very end, is a total sucker when it comes to all things Jets.
I guess I should reveal that we won't be asking Thibodeau about it because we taped the interview.
Did these players, when you're interviewing them, Stu, are they lying to you? Do you think they know where they're going?
No, I think they have no idea where they're going.
That's amazing.
Mike,
in baseball, all the players know exactly where they're going.
Mike, explain to me what just happened there where Stugotz, he's dizzy. This needs to be said for the audience, okay? Stugotz has worked very hard this week, and he came in here sideways today, pinballing, because he can't stop talking to draft picks. Like, he's just been nonstop, so he doesn't know where he is. And I don't do this very often. I'm like, Stugotz, you're doing so much with the draft the next couple of days. Why don't you just take Thursday off, do it from home? And he's like, I can't control my dog. I can't control Finney. I can't do it from home.
Abby's away with Emma, and Rachel's going to be walking in and out of the house, and it's going to be a mess. So I just figured it's better just to drive in here because Finney starts barking, you get upset, I start thinking about lawsuits. I mean, the whole thing.
All right. So I hope Stugotz gets named in this lawsuit and just the coachman stuff.
I guarantee you.
Knock it off.
I was in a group chat with Sedano where Sedano ventured that Stugotz is insanely jealous of you that he is not named in the lawsuit.
Oh God! Put it on the poll, please, Chris Cody.
No, don't do that. Don't put it. Don't put any. Don't put it on the
Leave
poll.
me out of this. I've gone out of my way to not be involved in any of this. Like, come on. I am jealous though.
I wish,
insanely jealous.
What I think we were getting to because of Stugotz being so dizzy talking to draft prospects is I came out with a Thibodeau topic. And it would be weird if we didn't ask Thibodeau about it, or at least our audience would. I don't find it weird that we wouldn't ask him. He's a draft prospect. Why would we ask him about this specifically, even though his name is attached to it? But our listeners would be like, oh, you guys are sissies.
Well, wait a minute. Tell me. No,
pin it on me. You're not part of the interview. I wasn't listening to you.
So I tried to do a professional thing where I was like, we're not going to ask him about that because that would be ridiculous. But then Stugotz is just over here willingly admitting, oh, yeah, I taped with him yesterday. Good kid.
All right, Dan asked.
Fell in love with him in 12 seconds, as if that means anything.
I want him to be a Jet.
You fall in love with anybody who gives you the fragrance of, I like to be near you, too.
So there it is, audience. We taped with Thibodeau, and then I thought this would be an interesting topic.
And beyond that, though, I do want to salute Stugotz with all of his coverage because he and Billy are ransacking the NFL. If you want, over the next couple of days, to hear from these guys, Stugotz will be asking them those questions, except for the ones you want to ask. But I don't know. I think Stugotz should have a different set of rules over there. He was going to go do something with Masvidal. He was going to go to Gronk's bachelor party. That should be, Stugotz should have a free-for-all over there.
Yeah, Stugotz operates by his own rules. Where it gets dicey is when he brings those rules over here and just flatly doesn't listen to what we're doing. Stugotz was doing a thing.
Yeah, just sits here, though, all show.
It's draft day, man. I've lost.
Sorry, Mike.
He is looking up
The Jets have 2 top 10 picks.
They do.
It's a miracle he's in here today.
4 in the top 50, something like that. This is a big, big day. They might trade to get Deebo Samuel. They might trade to get DK Metcalf. They might trade to get Terry McLaurin. I hope they trade for all of them and get all the draft picks. I mean,
you are one of the great sucker fans of all time, Stu.
I really am.
Of all time.
All for it every year.
Yeah!
Oh, you know what that music means, everybody? It is everyone's new favorite game. The premiere was unreal. The feedback, incredible.
Yes.
It is time to play Would You Attend Their Funeral? As always, I am your host, Mike Ryan Ruiz. I am joined by Dan Le Batard and David Samson, our contestants. The game is pretty easy. I throw out a name and I find out whether the contestant would attend their funeral. That's pretty it. It is dark, but isn't this music happy? First up on today's edition of Would You Attend Their Funeral, Dan Le Batard. Dan, first off, how you doing today? Nice to meet you. It says here you're a sports writer from Miami. That's a fun job, isn't it?
Avid river rafter.
Dan,
He actually did write something recently. That was pretty good, Dan.
Thank you,
we'll get to David in a second. Dan, would you attend Mitch Albom's funeral?
Oh, wow. Detroit, too, probably.
But
Yeah.
this is why this game is.
You're allowed one follow-up, and only if that question is a funeral in Detroit, to which I say yes.
This is one of the many reasons why this is the greatest game show ever invented. And it's unfair that Mike knows me this way.
Sounds like a no.
Because he's just picking people who are like right on the line of where it is.
That's the point of the game.
That's the beauty
Dan.
of the game.
But you got to pick these people well. Is my
Mitch
point.
Albom.
Ricky Williams wouldn't be
I
fun.
He's not making it easy to say yes or no, but the answer to your question is yes, I would. I very much admire Mitch Albom.
I'm sorry, that's an incorrect answer. We had it as you wouldn't. All right, so moving over to David Samson. David, it says here you're a former team president of a Major League Baseball team that actually won a World Series. That must have been fun.
It didn't suck.
All right, your question. Ricky Nolasco.
Oh, wow.
Would you attend Ricky Nolasco's funeral?
That is a tough one, man.
So Ricky Nolasco,
He's listening to this too, by the way.
he will give you a 4.5, 5 ERA for 15 years of throwing slop balls up there.
True.
No, he was much better than that.
To give you
That's
a peek-
totally incorrect.
Not at the end, he wasn't. The last.
Oh, he was.
Well,
he's one of
nobody
like the
at the end.
all-time
No,
leaders in Marlins
No,
history.
but like the last 7 years.
Not true. Not true.
I gotta go look
Not
it
true
up.
At all.
You had him having 7 bad years as a Marlin?
No, I have him having 7 years at the end of his career, where his ERA is between 4.5 and 5. Between
I mean,
4
that's
and
most
5.
starting pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Well, no, Dan
Now-
is right. Yeah, it's mid-5s, mid-6s the last 6 or 7 years. Yeah, David, I'm looking at it. Yes.
He was mid-6s the last 7 years of his career.
I said mid-5s, mid-6s last,
Not sure
last
how he
6 or
stayed
7
up that
years.
long.
Yeah.
But
A peek
would you
behind
go
the
to his
curtain.
funeral?
Peek behind the curtain. This question was almost for Dan, given that they were neighbors at one point. But David, would you attend Ricky Nolasco's funeral?
Yes.
Is that one of the ones where you have to text around? Like you're texting Larry Beinfest and Mike Hill to see if they're going. And if they're not, you're like, I think I'm
love
good.
where your head's at. I love where your head's at.
Yeah.
We would now, if it's like a mass accident where there's multiple players like that who have died at once,
Oh,
we would
come
divide and
on.
conquer.
Come on.
No, but
Come
what are we doing here?
I'm telling you what, that's when we'd text.
Come on.
Because we wouldn't be able to all go to all of them.
If there was a mass killing of former
What are you
Marlins, you guys would
doing?
text.
What are you doing?
Not a mass killing, just an accident or
Samson.
something. We've talked about
You
this.
have all the
By
former
the way, we have a
Marlins
whole
pitchers in a
book-
van together? I mean,
Yeah, you never know. We actually have a book in place about what to do in case of a major accident. There's a system. Every team in Major League Baseball has to have that about what you do.
This took a dark turn.
Yeah, I mean, the game
What do you mean?
in
It's
itself
the
is a
game.
dark turn.
My point is that we were already in a dark room, and now we've walked into another corner of the dark room. Now you've got, how do you handle if several of your friends die in a terrible accident at the same time? Totally different game show.
Dan, second question for you. Would you attend Joy Taylor's funeral?
oh, wow. Oh, wow.
He's going to lie again.
What do you mean lie again?
You're not going to Mitch Albom's funeral, Dan.
Why? Wait a minute. I drove my mother 3 hours to go see Mitch Albom one time, publicly speaking. Why would you say
Would
that I
you
would not go?
would
What's
you
that
fly
have to do
3
with it?
hours to see
I'm
his
so-
casket?
Your mom wanted to see
no,
it.
but I'm
Right.
saying
What does that have to do with anything?
But Mitch Albom's a mentor of mine. He was doing all of this before we were doing it.
Guys,
Like,
he's establishing his bona fides. Just,
Keep your eye on the ball. If Joy Taylor croaks, are you attending the funeral?
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to that funeral.
All right, good. That's another check.
Aspirational at best, Dan. Aspirational at
So
best.
far, we're attending everybody's funeral.
It's
the
right. That shows
game.
you how
The game is
unrealistic it
less fun when you do that.
David Samson, would you attend Rich Waltz's funeral?
No.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, that was a
Very quick no.
Jeez.
Jesus.
A remarkably quick no.
Well, he's
We're trying to get rolling into the next round.
I appreciate it. You're winning this game just based off of
Not
time
even
of
a
possession.
moment's consideration.
Not
really
even
wanna
considered.
say
Not a
Very nice
second.
man.
Not a second.
winning
Cares
this game.
not for
He
Rich
is winning.
Waltz.
This is the most arbitrary rating system since Tony
Well,
Reale.
he's telling the truth. I mean,
Not afraid to be honest.
Dan, would you attend Rick Tellender's funeral?
Oh, wow. Tellender. What a big part
Dan's
of the
like,
show.
damn, I got to work in a no sometime.
You do have to establish a line here, Dan. I mean, otherwise you're attending everyone's
Is it the
funeral.
Tellender line?
Stugotz, I know that you're an expert at everything you arrive at, but I played this game last week, okay?
I'm sorry.
I gave the nose that made
But
the
right
game.
now you're losing.
I understand how the game is funny, and I also understand how to win.
Yeah.
But Mike is putting this on a line that is making my answers have to be considered.
Uh-huh.
Unlike,
Oh, geez, David, are you seeing how long this guy's taking? It's
It's
ridiculous.
Listen
by the
to me.
way, we're all going to be dead by the time he
All right,
answers this.
okay.
You don't go to that many funerals, Dan. It just doesn't work
all right,
that way
well,
in the real world.
you listen to me, Samson. My list, my part of the. You handle your part of the game show. I'll handle mine. Okay.
You're taking too damn
Rick,
long.
Rick Tellender. All right, just give me a second. Rick Tellender, just because this is there's a reason for this. Rick Tellender, okay?
We get it. I'm a very good host that asks very difficult questions. Would you attend Rick Tellender's funeral?
Let me preface this by saying Rick Tellender is an inspiration. I would not attend his funeral.
All right.
All right.
Finally.
There we go.
All right.
It's tied now.
To win, it has to
David
be
Samson.
I'm legitimate friends
You have
with
to
Rick
apologize to
Tellender.
Rick
No, I'm
Tellender
gonna
now.
have to call him afterward and explain this to him.
Dave Hyde texted me after last week's show, by the way.
Wow, pick that name up. David Samson.
Slightly concerned at the fact that people would or would not be attending his funeral, and he wanted to point out, for clarity purposes, that he would not be attending mine.
Mike, at the risk of making the game too long, do you want to explain to the national audience who some of these people are?
Joy Taylor is Colin Cowherd's co-host. There's a relationship there because she hosted locally. Also happens to be Jason Taylor's sibling. Rick Tellender is a Chicago sports writer that would join our show often. Mitch Albom, I'm not really sure what he does.
An author.
Is that so?
Really?
Huh.
If
I'll
you
check
say
him out
so.
maybe.
Yep.
Ricky Nolasco would hang curveballs like the devil. David, would you attend Javier Vasquez's funeral?
Wow.
No,
That was quick.
Not a quick no. You're winning this
Yes.
game today.
Rushing.
because that's a schlep to Puerto Rico right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have in Puerto Rico. I've got to go to Tony Perez's in Puerto Rico. So there's only so many times I'm going to go to funerals there.
David, do you think Ricky Nolasco would attend your funeral?
No.
David, how
No.
long is your list? Like you said last week, the way that this game, the origins of it are you were talking to your friends and you have a list. So how long is your list? Basically, Mike is just either the names Mike is offering are on your list or they're not already. You've made these decisions.
Correct.
How long's your list?
Now, keep in mind, as we talked about last week, and it's worth repeating, all the answers we give on this show, the caveat is always the circumstance, right? It's the timing and the circumstance and around the death. That has an impact on whether or not, like if Ricky Nolasco were in Miami and I was there and I was with him and he passed away and he wasn't married at the time, I would stay in Miami and go to the funeral. I wouldn't fly to California. That's all. So, yes, my list is already done, as I think everybody's is, but maybe just people don't admit it.
Dan, would you attend Michael Kay's funeral?
Man, that's a tough one.
God, I talked to him quite a bit. No, I would not.
Wow. You got some calls to make today, my friend.
Apology tour. David, would you attend former Marlins public relations maven Matt Roebuck's funeral?
I like him a lot, but I would not. I would send a note, though.
That's
Send a
nice.
note.
No, that doesn't mean
You can't read
anything.
it.
What is
I
that?
mean,
I'd send it to
I
his
would
family.
send a note.
That is a great joke, too, guys.
thank you.
I would send a note.
I would send a note.
I mean, it's the bare minimum. You're not gonna-
Maybe some bagels to the Shiva.
Okay.
That is good stuff out of Stugotz there. Dan, Dan, would you attend Randy Scott's funeral?
Oh,
Oh, come on, man.
I'll represent for you, Dan. I'll go.
I'd go.
Everybody would go, but this question's for Dan.
Yeah.
You'd go without me.
Oh, no!
Wow.
Oh, Randall.
Man.
What about, Dan, when you do this, you could have people who work for you as your representatives, and that counts as going.
Because
Like
they
when the
wouldn't show up.
They're going on your behalf.
I understand, but none of that. If I sent Stugotz on my behalf, what do you think that would end up with his plane ticket on eBay?
I'd sell tickets to Randy Scott's funeral.
No, you would your plane ticket. You would sell it and then expense it
And not
go. That's correct.
I like Randy.
David, would you attend Donald Fear's funeral?
No.
Quick nose. Care to elaborate?
Head of the Players Union, former
Well,
head.
There'd be no reason to go to his funeral.
Jeez, damn, that's cold. Dan Jimmy Pitaro.
Holy bleep.
I would say be careful.
Yep.
No,
Very
you got to
careful.
give an honest answer here.
Be careful.
Got to keep your options open.
I would not.
What? Oh, no.
For
All right.
sure. That was an easy no, Mike. An
All right.
easy no.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of Would You Attend Their Funeral? Thanks to our contestants. We'll talk to you next week. David, before we let you out of here, it also says you enjoy giving movie reviews weekly. What's this week's?
I want to have the algorithms of Netflix explained to me by someone who knows. Maybe Adnan could tell me how it works, or Chris. It fascinates me because I'll put Netflix on and it will show me something that's from 5 years ago that I'd never heard of. And in this case, it was Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, documentary about Jim Carrey and his playing Andy Kaufman in a movie called Man on the Moon. And the documentary was incredible, and I'd never heard of it.
So good.
I don't understand. After 5 years, it appeared on the front homepage of my Netflix 2 days ago, so I watched it. And then I went back and watched Man on the Moon again another time. I was not aware during the course of that filming the way Jim Carrey was dealing with being that character and the difficulty he had being that character and the difficulty that he had with the wrestler during the shooting of the movie, the difficulty that people had on movie set not knowing whether he was actually Andy Kaufman or was he Jim Carrey acting like Andy Kaufman. And Jim Carrey was asked in this documentary, would you go back and would you be Andy Kaufman again? And the answer was no, because it took so much out of him. And I felt for Jim Carrey. I really did during this documentary, so I absolutely loved it.
I got the same exact thing as David. I watched it yesterday because it just popped up, and I was like, that's crazy. They must
It's
just be
so
Is that
good.
unbelievable?
It really
Why-
is great.
No, but it popped up on your Netflix yesterday, too?
Yes.
It's something, obviously, there has to be a reason for that, right?
Well, Netflix traffics and information, David. Like one of the
Why
most
would they think
valuable.
Yeah, but what information did they have that Chris and I had not seen it and that it on our homepage on the same day? Or did they move it to the front for everybody yesterday?
Maybe they did it for everybody, but would you be surprised to learn that your devices are listening to you, watching you, tracking you, and feeding you information that's tailored to you?
Wait, I'm being told that there are movie producers who can pay to get to the top. Like in Google, I know people pay to get to the top of a Google search. Does that work at Netflix where you actually pay Netflix for them to, like, I guess we could ask Billy Corbin that with some of his stuff that's a top 10. Do you pay for that?
I don't believe that they pay for that. I believe that they think they have something good and they splash it. I don't know why things would appear 5 years later unless they have enough data on you to occasionally put in front of you things that you might also like.
So I do not ever rate what I watch on Netflix because I don't want them to have the data on me because it's an eclectic thought. Anyway, go to Netflix and watch this documentary. And if you haven't seen Man on the Moon, watch the double feature of the movie and the documentary. You will not be sorry.
Was any part of you skeptical because he brought in the documentary crew? Like it was his decision to be documented. Like it's with the Kanye doc. That's why I'm it's so intimate with Kanye, but there's part of me that's like he brought in this crew. He knows it's there. So I was a little skeptical of Jim Carrey being as in the character behind the scenes because he knew it was being documented. Like I may be just too skeptical.
Like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Along Came Polly when he's filming his own true Hollywood story.
But there were a lot of stories. I remember after that movie was released, there was all sorts of buzz that Jim kind of went off the deep end a little bit during filming.
Well, because Andy Kaufman, they covered in the film, right, the Tony Clifton period, where Andy Kaufman took his fame and decided to just be another character in character and be in like a fat suit, and he'd sell out arenas doing comedy shows that were not funny. It was this other character. People wanted to see Andy Kaufman, and he wouldn't be Andy Kaufman.
And Tony Clifton is still playing shows. By the way, and still emceeing events. And Jim Carrey, at the time that he was filming this or preparing for the role, he would show up in character at places. There was an MTV Movie Awards that I think he showed up in character, Playboy Party. So he was really getting immersed in the world of Andy Kaufman.
Is Andy Kaufman the first guy who we questioned his death? Like, is he the original death questioner?
Well,
like,
there's
don't
JFK,
people wonder whether Tupac's
Elvis,
dead or?
Tupac.
Oh, so Elvis. Oh, people think Elvis is alive?
Yeah.
And he's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not know that. I thought they were just impersonators. So I guess Andy Kaufman, because the rumor is that Andy Kaufman, that it was a bit, because his whole life was a bit. And so when he had cancer, spoiler alert, that's what he died of, in theory, no one around him actually knew whether he had cancer or not. In real life.
Watch The Invisible Pilot on HBO. It's a 3-part documentary. McKay did it on how it is that someone can fake a death.
Wouldn't Elvis be like 95 today? Like, people still think Elvis is roaming
it's
around?
Ridiculous. Like, at least I understand Tupac, but Elvis, I mean, Elvis, even if he was living a vegan yoga lifestyle, wouldn't be with us anymore. I don't understand why people think that Vegas or that Hawaii Elvis exists.
Well, Andy Kaufman would have to be old by now too, wouldn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's questioning anymore whether Andy Kaufman is
Guys,
dead.
Tony Clifton's still around. I don't know what you're talking about. David, host of Nothing Personal, thank you so much for joining us on this week's Local Hour.